So welcome to Benny's Designs. I'm having a play with my Neocolor 2s in Mythmorphia. And I've got the camera quite low down so that I can zoom in. I've got a baby wipe, a damp baby wipe, and I've got a number 1 Derwent brush. And I find that if you squeeze the water out and twist it to a point on a damp baby wipe, that's the perfect combination amount of just a damp brush for manipulating colour. So you can do it 2 ways. You can touch the actual crayon, watercolour crayon, or you can scratch a bit in, depending on how easy you want to do it. So on this side I've been scratching colours together complementary to make grunge. This side I just want to make a watercolour effect, but still using the Neos. So excuse me, I'm going to zoom in. Oh, hi Mara, welcome to Benny's Designs. So this is a live stream with live peoples, and it's recorded for Ustream.tv and also for Ustream, YouTube, for people to watch at their leisure. Excuse me, I need a quick slurp. As Floyd used to say, and that's coffee, not wine. So this is number 50, Flame Red. And I've scratched a little bit on that one there. So one thing you could do is, that's actually a bluebell. This is probably the same flower here. What you could do is you could just spend a bit of time scratching colour into the flowers, and then you could go away, take this with you and a water brush, and all your colours there ready for you to use. So I'm actually going to use Periwinkle Blue because I like that one. There's one called, whoopsie, Periwinkle Blue, and it's a really pretty blue. Sorry, excuse me, I start to cough now. In fact, I've changed my mind. I have them all here, you see. So I have a blue jeans one. So Periwinkle Blue is a bit purpley. So I'm actually going to stick with what I had, which is Gentian Blue. Yes, please, excuse me. Just bear with me a second. Sorry, I just had a coughing fit. So scratch a bit of colour in that blue there. And that's obviously one. I think that is the same, but we could and sometimes you have to follow flowers round, so I'm going to leave that because I don't know what colours. So I've got an olive colour, and I do like the bigger flower to be an olive. Let me have a look. Oh, that could be kind of a rose colour, so I think we'll have I think that's maybe a rose, is it? I'm going to put a bit of this here. And you can mix two colours together. You could put this colour here. And I think that's the same orange there. But you can put a blue with this, or you could put anything you want with it. I think this is the same flower. And you could just scratch all this colour in and then just take a water brush, especially if it's warm weather. Now I would put a piece of paper or tracing paper in between the book pages, because you'll probably find that that blue will go on the other side. But if you did that, there's no reason why you just couldn't take that and the brush, and then you can sit wherever you are and manipulate that out. So this is with a water brush, and this is with a number 3 rigger. Now number 3 rigger is a bit of a bigger one for me, but it will be fine. Again, baby wipe, barely damp, manipulate the colour, and you have a beautiful bluebell effect. And it doesn't matter whether you use a water brush or a rigger, but you've got to be careful about the amount of water. You've got to keep your brush dry-ish, and that's on a baby wipe. So it's one dunk and a twist, and that's going to make it barely damp enough to manipulate this blue into a watercolour effect, and the colour's on the end but the brush is still damp, so it will manipulate everything to the palest colour. But you need to practice this technique. Now there will be blue on the end of there. There should be a little bit of blue on it, but not much, because you've ended up with nothing. And that's why I say all that colour is on there. Nothing's wasted. The same with this one. You manipulate that colour and activate it up.
I'm sorry, but do you know where your soups are?
No, it's alright, doesn't matter.
Okay, do you want a cup of tea?
So that's kind of how that one works. Again, it's a different brush. It's all to do with watercolouring. That's why I invented watercolouring. A damp brush, barely damp, just enough to activate that. If you use this water brush wet, it would flood this with colour and you wouldn't get a watercolour effect. But by drying it on a baby wipe, that was a little bit too wet for me, but you can get how you want it. And then if you want to go back in, you just touch the end and you can make that darker. These are new, so they've got that kind of wax on them. They get like a cover, but if you use the end there, you will get the colour. So you've got a watercolour effect with a tablespoon of water. And the more colour you put in, the least watercolour effect you get. So you can start in there, take that out. And it doesn't matter, but I've been practicing and I've been using these brushes for a long time. A little bit of colour and manipulate it out. but you can have a lovely watercolour effect with very little water. No, Emma, you can use them with Inktense blocks. I did, there is a video that I did on another page, which is Inktense blocks. I can't think which one it was now. Bear with me 2 seconds. Let me see if I can find it. And you can do it with pastels as well. There's a video on pastel pencils and pastels. Scratch a bit of colour. If you scratch a little bit of colour, you can't do it with watercolour unless you take the tiniest bit. Now you can do it with Inktense, you can do it with Hydrus, you could do it with watercolour, professional watercolours. That's what these are. All you need to do is to get the tiniest amount of colour on the end of your brush, the tiniest amount, and then you manipulate it with a damp brush. Now but you've got to wet your brush every time, twist it on a baby wipe, then you touch your colour, and then you manipulate it to nothing. And it doesn't matter what it is, it's better if it's fairly dry. So of course these are my professional watercolours, and these are my professional blocks, but there's the Winsor & Newton Cotman, but these are Selenia ones as well. So if you can see, there's a little bit of red, there's a hole in that one, so you touch a little bit of that, and the damp brush, it's the damp rigger that does it. So that's why I invented watercolouring. It's doing it with any medium, and it's the damp rigger. So there's a tiny bit of colour, and then you take it to nothing, and that means that all that colour is on your page, and you've not wasted anything. Nothing gets washed out in a brush. The same with the peerless. You touch a little bit of colour. Now my brush wasn't actually damp. A little bit of colour, you touch the colour you want, and you manipulate it to nothing. I have the Hydrus in here. The Caran Colour 2s do that on paper palettes. Anything on a paper palette. Gansai Tambi watercolours. Kuretake Gansai, they're in there. Obviously if you've got a water brush, you don't need to dunk every time, so you want the tiniest amount. I've lost that little piece of paper again. Manipulate the colour out. Tiniest amount, manipulate the colour to nothing, and that gives you a watercolour effect. I have my Inktense blocks in here somewhere, or did I take them out? I think I took them out because they're a bit powdery. The Derwent watercolours, they're in here. This is how I work all the time. A tiny bit of colour, manipulate it to a watercolour effect. What are you looking for? The Graphitint is the same. I've just put all my Caran d'Ache in here. This is where you can see where my pastels were, because they're very powdery on here. So if I touch, that's probably the wrong side. If I touch this, I don't know if it's the right side or the wrong side. Can't tell. The hydrus are in drops. This is how these work. Again, they don't look to be much there, but a tiniest amount here. Oops, you were on camera there. The tiniest touch. And of course the hydrus are very highly pigmented. Oh, sorry, I was off camera. Gives you a really, just to wait for that to dry. So, touch, a little bit of colour. And take it to nothing. There we go. So just bear with me a second.